Ma'am, I already told you, this bracelet is extremely expensive. Naomi tilted her head. And? Linda folded her arms. It's not really in your price range. Silence. Naomi Ellington stood at the window of her penthouse office, the city skyline stretching before her. The view was breathtaking, a testament to how far she had come. From selling handcrafted bracelets at a flea market to owning one of the most prestigious jewelry brands in the world, her journey had been nothing short of remarkable. Yet, as she looked out at the twinkling lights of the city, an uneasy feeling settled in her chest. Was she still connected to the people who had supported her rise? She turned back to her sleek glass desk, where an open laptop displayed a business article. Luxury brands and the silent discrimination problem. The headline wasn't new to her. She had seen countless reports about how high-end retailers subtly alienated black customers. But this time, buried in the comments, something caught her eye. Customer review, Ellington Fine Jewelry, Fifth Avenue Jewelry Store. I walked in ready to spend money, but the staff treated me like I didn't belong. Meanwhile, they rolled out the red carpet for someone else right in front of me. Never felt so unwelcome in a place I wanted to support. Naomi's fingers curled into fists. Her brand. Her store. She clicked through more reviews and found similar complaints. Black customers ignored. Turned away. Assumed to be window shopping, while white customers were treated like royalty. A sickening mix of anger and shame tightened in her stomach. How had this happened under her leadership? Her company prided itself on inclusivity and elegance. She had fought against gatekeeping in luxury spaces. But had her own business become exactly what she had once stood against? She exhaled sharply, pressing her palms against the desk. She could send an email. Call a board meeting. Issue a PR-friendly statement. Or she could see the truth with her own eyes. Straightening her blazer, Naomi grabbed her coat. No assistants. No bodyguards. Just her, walking into her own store as a customer. If there was rot in her empire, she was going to cut it out at the root. Naomi stepped out of her black town car onto Fifth Avenue, where the heart of New York's luxury district pulsed with wealth and exclusivity. The golden-lettered sign of Ellington Fine Jewelry gleamed under the evening lights, a beacon of status. A strange mix of pride and unease settled in her chest as she pulled her wool coat tighter around her. She had built this. Yet, tonight, she wasn't walking in as the owner, she was just another customer. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The jewelry store was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over glass display cases lined with diamonds, emeralds, and handcrafted masterpieces. Classical music played in the background, and the scent of fresh orchids lingered in the air. Yet, within seconds, she felt it. The shift. A blonde sales associate, Linda, glanced her way. Her polite smile faltered for a second before she quickly recovered. "Good evening," Linda greeted, though her tone lacked warmth. "Can I help you?" Naomi kept her voice light. "I'd love to see the sapphire bracelet from your latest collection." Linda's brows twitched. "Oh, that's quite a rare piece. It's priced at $75,000. Naomi caught the hesitation. The doubt. Before she could respond, the door chimed. A white woman entered, wearing a sleek designer coat, her blonde hair styled in effortless waves. Linda immediately perked up. "Welcome, Mrs. Davenport. It's wonderful to see you again." Naomi watched as Linda glided toward the new arrival, her entire demeanor shifting. Warm. Eager. Accommodating. She swallowed down her irritation. Linda returned, but her focus remained on Charlotte Davenport, who was offered the very bracelet Naomi had requested, without hesitation. Naomi folded her arms. "I just asked to see that bracelet." Linda hesitated. "Oh, well. I assumed you might be interested in something a little more accessible." Naomi felt the weight of those words. This was exactly what she had feared. A quiet, dangerous smile curled her lips. "I'll take it." For a moment, there was silence. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Linda's face, as if she hadn't heard Naomi correctly. "You want to purchase the bracelet?" she repeated slowly, forcing a polite smile. Naomi met her gaze, her expression unreadable. "Yes." "Is that a problem?" Linda's eyes darted to Charlotte Davenport, the other customer she had been catering to. Charlotte, now realizing what was happening, raised an eyebrow. "Oh," Linda said quickly, nervous laughter bubbling up. No, no problem at all. It's just that. Well, this bracelet is part of our exclusive collection. It's a very high-ticket item, and I just hate for you to. Naomi's eyes darkened. For me to what? Linda hesitated. She had stepped too far into dangerous territory. But instead of backtracking, she let out another awkward laugh. I just want to make sure you're comfortable with the price, she said. Many people like to explore our. Naomi had heard enough. She reached into her coat and pulled out a sleek black credit card, laying it gently on the glass counter. The room shifted. Linda's face drained of color as she stared at the card, her mouth opening slightly in shock. It was a Centurion card. The kind reserved for elite clientele. The kind that said, I can buy this store if I want to. A sharp intake of breath came from Charlotte. She took a step forward, studying Naomi with a new level of scrutiny. Then recognition hit. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. You're Naomi Ellington. The name landed like a thunderclap in the jewelry store. Linda blinked, her eyes widening. She had just insulted the CEO of the company she worked for. Naomi picked up her credit card and tilted her head. Let's talk about customer service, shall we? Panic flashed across Linda's face. She turned toward the back of the store, as if hoping someone could rescue her from the disaster she had created. But Naomi wasn't done yet. Where's your manager? The jewelry store fell into a heavy silence as Linda's face twisted with panic. Her hands fidgeted by her sides, her mind scrambling for an escape. I can handle this, she stammered, forcing a brittle smile. There's no need to. Get your manager. Naomi's voice was calm, but there was steel beneath her words. Linda swallowed hard, then hurried toward the back of the store, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The tension in the air was suffocating. Charlotte Davenport took a careful step back, suddenly more interested in her phone than the confrontation unfolding before her. Naomi stood firm, arms crossed, her gaze locked on the store entrance. Every fiber of her being wanted to unleash her fury, to tell Linda exactly how insulting it was to be treated as unworthy in a store she had built from nothing. But she wouldn't lose her composure. Dignity was her weapon. Moments later, David Langford, the jewelry store manager, emerged from the back office, his expression already clouded with confusion. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and a tailored suit, the kind of corporate figure who prided himself on maintaining brand standards. Ms. Ellington, he greeted stiffly, his face tightening with dread as he realized who she was. I wasn't aware you were visiting today. Naomi let that hang in the air for a moment. Clearly, she said. I just had the most enlightening experience with one of your employees. David's eyes flickered to Linda, who stood rigid and pale, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. I sincerely apologize if. Naomi held up a hand. Don't apologize, fix it. She turned toward Linda, whose eyes were already glistening with tears. How many black customers have you dismissed like this? Naomi asked. How many walked in here, wallets full, ready to buy, only to be treated like they weren't worthy? Linda shook her head quickly. I didn't mean. You didn't mean for me to be your boss. Naomi's voice was ice cold. You just didn't care. A tense silence followed. Then, the final blow. You're fired. Linda let out a small, choked gasp. Her eyes darted to David, desperate for someone to intervene, to save her from the consequences of her own actions. But David only exhaled heavily, his lips pressing into a thin line. You can't just fire me, Linda stammered, her voice shaking. I've worked here for years. I was just trying to follow policy. Naomi tilted her head, unimpressed. And what policy is that? The one where you humiliate paying black customers. Linda opened her mouth, but no words came out. A beat passed before Naomi turned to David. I suggest you draft her termination paperwork immediately. David nodded stiffly, his discomfort evident, but he knew better than to argue. Naomi exhaled slowly, letting the tension in the room settle. She scanned the jewelry store. The other employees had gone eerily quiet, all of them pretending to be busy polishing glass cases or adjusting jewelry displays. But Naomi noticed one person who hadn't ignored the situation, a young black sales associate near the back, standing rigidly behind the counter, her hands clenched into nervous fists. Jasmine. Naomi had noticed her earlier, how she had stolen glances toward Naomi while Linda dismissed her, how her fingers had twitched as if she wanted to step in but was too afraid to overstep. Now, Naomi turned toward her. "How long have you worked here?" Jasmine's eyes widened slightly. "Almost a year, ma'am." "And how often have you seen what just happened?" Jasmine hesitated. She glanced at David. Naomi caught the look. "Tell the truth." "You have my word, your job is safe." Jasmine swallowed, then nodded. "It happens a lot." Linda let out an offended scoff, but no one paid her any attention anymore. Naomi took a step closer to Jasmine. "And what would you have done in my position?" Jasmine's voice was steady now. "I would have fired her, too." A slow smile spread across Naomi's face. "Good." She reached for the $75,000 sapphire bracelet, the same one Linda had refused to show her. Carefully, she unclasped it and gently placed it around Jasmine's wrist. Jasmine's mouth fell open. "Ms. Ellington, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," Naomi said firmly. "This store needs more people like you." A murmur rippled through the jewelry store as everyone realized what had just happened. Jasmine blinked back tears, looking at Naomi with something beyond gratitude. Respect. Admiration. Hope. Naomi smiled. This was what real luxury looked like. The weight of the moment lingered in the jewelry store. Jasmine stared at the sapphire bracelet on her wrist, still in disbelief, while Linda stood frozen, her face a mix of humiliation and shock. David cleared his throat awkwardly. "Ms. Ellington, I'll ensure Linda's paperwork is handled immediately," he said, his voice stiff but obedient. Naomi nodded but didn't respond. Instead, she turned her focus back to the store itself, the brand she had built with her own hands. It felt tainted. She walked slowly through the jewelry store, running her fingers along the pristine glass cases. Each piece of jewelry inside was a work of art, diamonds carefully selected, metals molded to perfection, but what was the point of beauty if the people selling it made others feel unworthy of wearing it? "How many other employees here share Linda's mindset?" Naomi asked, still studying the displays. David hesitated. "I assure you, ma'am, we train our staff to uphold the highest." Naomi held up a hand. "I didn't ask for a corporate statement." Her gaze lifted to meet his. "I asked for the truth." A nervous silence followed. Some of the other employees had started shifting, exchanging uneasy glances. Then, Jasmine stepped forward, voice steady despite the nervous energy radiating off her. "It's not just Linda," she admitted. Some of the other associates, her eyes flickered toward two employees who immediately looked away, "they've done the same thing. They just weren't as bold about it." Naomi exhaled, nodding. She had suspected as much. Rot never stayed contained to one place. She turned back to David. "Tomorrow morning, I want a mandatory staff meeting. No exceptions." David nodded quickly. "Of course." "And make it clear," Naomi continued, her voice sharp as a blade, "Ellington Fine Jewelry will no longer tolerate even an ounce of discrimination. Every employee will be retrained. Every hiring practice re-evaluated. If someone can't treat every customer with the same respect, they're out. No matter how long they've worked here." David swallowed hard. "Understood." Naomi's gaze swept the room one last time. Then she turned to Jasmine. "You. Walk with me." Jasmine blinked. "Ma'am." Naomi smiled. "You're coming with me to corporate." Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. Did she hear that right? She looked around the jewelry store, as if expecting someone to tell her this was a mistake. But Naomi Ellington, the legendary CEO standing before her, was serious. "See corporate?" Jasmine stammered. Naomi nodded. "You've been here a year, right?" Jasmine swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." "And in that year, you've watched people like Linda drive away customers who looked like you." Jasmine hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Yes." Naomi smiled, not with warmth, but with calculated intent. "Then I need you somewhere more important than behind a counter." Jasmine's eyes darted to David, whose jaw had visibly tightened. She had been invisible to him before, just another junior associate. But now, she was being pulled into the inner circle. Linda, still standing in her stunned silence, suddenly scoffed. So that's how this works now. Fire me and hand out promotions like participation trophies? A hush fell over the jewelry store. Naomi turned slowly, leveling her gaze at Linda. Your biggest mistake wasn't just prejudging me, Naomi said, her voice like smooth steel. It was assuming Jasmine's only place in this company was beneath you. Linda's mouth clamped shut. There was nothing left for her to say. Naomi turned back to Jasmine. Come to my office first thing in the morning. Jasmine still looked hesitant. But, what would I even do there? Naomi smiled for real this time. Help me fix what people like Linda broke. Jasmine's lips parted slightly. She had dreamed of something more, but she never imagined an opportunity like this would come. Before she could say another word, Naomi started walking toward the door. See you at 9 sharp. And just like that, Jasmine's life had changed forever. The next morning, Jasmine stood outside the towering Ellington Enterprises headquarters, her heart hammering in her chest. This wasn't just a job, it was an entirely new world. She smoothed her blouse, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. The corporate offices were a stark contrast to the jewelry store. Everything was sleek, modern, and intimidating. But the moment she walked into the executive floor, she realized this was not just a normal workday. Inside the grand boardroom, Naomi sat at the head of the table. Across from her were a group of executives, middle-aged, mostly white, and visibly uneasy. Jasmine recognized David among them. Naomi gestured for Jasmine to take a seat beside her. Good morning, everyone, Naomi began, her voice composed but commanding. We have a problem. One that goes beyond Linda. A few of the executives shifted uncomfortably. Ellington Fine Jewelry has built its brand on exclusivity, Naomi continued. But at some point, exclusivity started looking a lot like racial profiling. And that's not just unethical, it's bad business. A man in a gray suit, one of the senior VPs, cleared his throat. Ms. Ellington, I understand your frustration, but... Naomi held up a hand. This isn't frustration. This is a failure of leadership. And since I'm the leader, I'm here to fix it. She glanced at Jasmine. This is Jasmine. She's been with the company for a year. She's seen exactly how our brand is failing customers. And unlike some of you, she isn't afraid to tell the truth. Jasmine's pulse raced as all eyes turned to her. But Naomi gave her a slight nod, as if to say, you belong here. Jasmine straightened her shoulders. Customers know when they're not welcome, she said, voice steady. And they don't come back. If you think this isn't hurting sales, you're wrong. The room fell silent. Naomi leaned back, satisfied. That's why Jasmine is going to help implement new diversity and customer service policies. A murmur spread across the table. David's face twisted in protest. She's an entry-level employee, he blurted. You can't just. Naomi's gaze hardened. She is now my special advisor. And if you have a problem with that, you're free to resign. The message was clear, this company was changing, with or without them. A heavy silence settled over the boardroom. Jasmine felt the weight of a dozen skeptical eyes sizing her up. She wasn't an executive, didn't have a fancy degree, and hadn't spent years climbing the corporate ladder like the men and women seated around her. But she had something they didn't, first-hand experience of the problem they were too privileged to see. David was the first to break the silence. His face was a shade redder than before. Ms. Ellington, with all due respect, you're letting personal feelings cloud your judgment. You can't expect a junior associate to. Naomi raised a hand, cutting him off. You're right about one thing, she said, her voice sharp. This is personal. Not just for me, but for every customer we've alienated and every employee who has watched discrimination happen and stayed silent out of fear. A few board members exchanged uneasy glances. They weren't used to being challenged like this. Naomi turned to Jasmine. Tell them what you told me yesterday. Jasmine inhaled deeply. This was her moment. I've seen customers treated differently based on their skin color, she said, forcing herself to meet their gazes. I've seen black women ignored while white customers were greeted with smiles. I've seen security called for no reason. I've seen sales associates assume who could or couldn't afford something, without ever looking at their wallets. She let the words sink in. Some of the board members looked genuinely uncomfortable now. We say we sell luxury, Jasmine continued, her voice steady. But luxury isn't just expensive things. It's how you make people feel. And right now, we're making a lot of customers feel like they don't belong here. A few executives nodded slightly, though others remained tight-lipped. Naomi smiled. That's why Jasmine will be helping design new training programs, revising hiring practices, and creating policies to make sure every customer is treated with respect. David clenched his jaw. That's a lot of power to give someone with no corporate experience. Naomi's gaze hardened. Then maybe you should have listened to employees like her before it came to this. The message was clear: adapt or step aside. A week later, Ellington Fine Jewelry felt different. The once intimidating boardroom buzzed with energy as managers and employees gathered for Naomi's official company-wide announcement. A shift was happening, one that could no longer be ignored. Naomi stood at the front, composed yet firm. She wasn't just here to make a speech. She was here to make history. As of today, she began, scanning the room. Ellington Fine Jewelry is not just changing its policies. We're changing our culture. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some employees looked uncertain, others hopeful. In the past, Naomi continued, we allowed bias, both subtle and blatant, to influence how we treat our customers. That ends now. She turned to Jasmine, who stood beside her, a new confidence in her posture. Jasmine has been promoted to our customer experience and equity advisor. She will be working directly with me to ensure that every single person, no matter their background, feels valued when they walk through our doors. Jasmine still couldn't believe it. Just a week ago, she had been behind the counter, watching discrimination play out in silence. Now, she had the power to change things. One of the senior managers raised a hesitant hand. Ms. Ellington, how will these changes affect sales? Naomi smiled, the kind of smile that held power. Respect is good for business, she said simply. When customers feel welcome, they come back. When employees feel valued, they perform better. And when a brand stands for something more than just profits, it becomes iconic. The room fell silent. Then, slowly, people started nodding. Change had come. As the meeting ended, Jasmine turned to Naomi. Why me? She asked softly. Out of everyone, why did you choose me? Naomi's expression softened. Because you spoke up. Because you saw what was broken and wanted to fix it. She paused. Because I was you once. Jasmine felt the weight of those words, the unspoken history, the battles Naomi had fought to get here. And for the first time, she truly believed, this was just the beginning.